Hey folks, it's Brian. After our RQG game last week, we also got to play Elderath because there was a fifth Saturday in there somewhere that it turns out we could actually get together and play. So, the party last time had done some downtime and going out to visit the Undersea Temple as well. When we get back to Hamlet, a couple long-term sort of things going on is Raymond's trying to build his militia and his Harper project, and Wes is continuing his professionalization of the tower forces, and some discussion of things about the flying boat and such. It came out that the Howler, in fact, is in Guldak. I don't think we knew that, but the GM seemed to think we did. I don't remember that, but anyway, the Howler is in Guldak, and so flying the boat back and forth between Telgar and Kars to establish commerce that way is probably not a good idea, because eventually the Howler on his flying carpet would come out and get us, and we don't want that. So anyway, we head to Telgar. We're going to get the boat because we decided that we're going. Oh, and that's all in the live play, by the way, in the description. We are going to take the boat to Kars to check on the vineyard and the villa and how things are going there. So. It is week 3, day 7, we get to Telgar. Okay, so when we go into town, Runt notices some folks signing to each other. Basically says, "Tell Spider he's here." And then he starts to talk to Wes that someone has noticed that we've arrived. It's either you because they're trying to kill you, or it's me. And Wes says, "What? You know who's trying to kill me? You haven't told me yet?" He says, "I mentioned that so we can hurry. We need to get to the docks. And then, we could go to the docks and then sneak into Wes's apartments. Are the apartments safe? Well, they have been so far. But that was before anyone knew that Runt was actually already here when we stuck him in last time. Anyway, let's go find out where the ship is before we set up arrangements. So we go out to the docks. And we go through the tradesman's quarter to the wharf, to the naval yard, and to the harbor master. He says the ship is 4 days away. Wes tells him to let Wes know when the ship arrives, as we have a special mission for it. At that comment, the harbor master seems visibly anxious. So we go to the castle so that Wes can report to the Chamberlain, reporting, "Hey, I'm in town." And as we approach... As we approach the Chamberlain's office in the castle, what right here? There's somebody who comes out. He sees us. Says back in the room, "My lord, he's here." So we go in, talk to the Chamberlain. So what brings you to Telgar? He says, "We've come to check out the ship as we have a special mission for it." He says, "I see. I will send word to the harbor." He seems to get a chuckle out of this, that the merchants will be a little upset. And he asks, "Will you be staying at your domicile?" "Yes, that's our plan." And he says, "Here, let me get a carriage." No, as we go to our carriage, because we had gotten a carriage from the harbor master. A messenger comes running out from Chamberlain and asks us to wait here for an escort. So, okay, we'll wait, no problem. So night arrives, and it's somebody that Wes actually remembers, he knows. And then his horse arrives from another part of the castle where the stables are and such. And he mounts up, and off we go to the church for Raymond to do his thing. So Raymond, as he enters the church, genuflects, and he finds the church's equivalent of the Chamberlain, whoever needs to report to it. And that person mentions to Raymond that Sir Michael has been dispatched to Castle Kirk. Now, Castle Kirk is a ranger, and he has a force of griffin riding rangers. And Kirk is kind of centrally located. He's got Telgar up here, you got Hamlet over here, you got Castle Kirk down here, and you got Shadow Keep or Raven's Keep or something down here. And there's the Black Tower over here, and some villages down through here, and that kind of thing, right? So it's kind of centrally located. But Sir Michael's been dispatched to Castle Kirk with a retinue of church knights. Word is that villages of Eastgate, which is east of Castle Kirk, and Berrydale, which is south of Castle Kirk, have been overrun by undead armies. So after some discussion and stuff, we get back to the apartments. Runt can feel eyes on him the entire time we're traveling around. Rayman does notice some suspicious folks that seem to be noticing us when we get out of the carriage at Wes's apartments. And he kind of points this out to Runt. And Runt actually recognizes one of these guys. Not a good thing. But anyway, next day, Runt, we talk with Runt. Okay, you guys, you've got to figure this thing out with Spider and get it finished instead of worrying about it the whole time. So he writes Spider a letter to meet up at a cafe that Wes goes to regularly here in this part of town. You know, sometime between lunch and dinner. We then make our way over there and we wait. It's a no-show. So we go back to the apartments, and Wes begins that night to write letters to people who've been writing him letters that he has not been here to receive. Okay. He did ask about potential parties he may need to go to. There's one that's going to show up, but it's the day the ship's going to arrive, so we're planning on leaving anyway. Okay. Day 9. Which is like Sunday, because it's a services day, you know, meditation and prayer and that kind of thing, right? So Wes goes to the temple, which in this Elderath does not have a Maliki. It's Elderath 2 that has a Maliki representation here. But he goes to like the common worship area and he tries to commune with Maliki. Not successful. Okay, then he goes off to the university to look for possible temple adherents and to make his appearances and acquire into gating ways. He's not able to find anybody who would possibly be a temple adherent, but he does meet up with the Master Summoner, and they discuss you know, gating. You know, we know there are different types of gates. There's the black towers. What about fairy mounds? You know, and how are gates powered? Has anybody studied this kind of stuff? Do we know? And he says, you know, many people have studied it, but we don't really have the capacity to create such things. These gates are artifacts from before the breaking, and that, you know, magic was different before the breaking. And Wes kind of says, hey, would it be possible to power a gate from a ley line? And he says, you know, the great forges in Zig we know are situated on ley lines. And Wes asks if there's been any research into, you know, points where ley lines cross, you know, a nexus of them kind of thing. He says, well, there are shamanistic visions such as mushroom circles and such that seem to be a crossing point for various ley lines. And there has been scholars that have looked into such things, but no useful information has resulted. He says it's interesting to know that the ancient towers are all situated on ley lines as well. And so Wes got, hey, has there been any research into the different, you know, flavors of ley lines, like either realms of magic or elemental fields, you know, earth, air, fire, water, that kind of thing. And he says that there has been research into such thing, although it's generally discussed as colors of ley lines. And obviously there's the 3 realms of magic, which each have their own characteristics. So Wes is able to pull a little bit of information out there. He's trying to figure out how we can get the gate in the undermoat house that's been cut from his power reconnected. Okay, week 4, day 1. We go off to the docks. This is when the ship should have arrived. The ship is important. It's being unloaded. And the rest of the party is very paranoid about something happening to the ship, but it looks okay. We head up to the keep to request. Wes heads up to the keep. Everybody follows along with him to request an audience with Tamara to see if there's, you know, anything that she wanted to convey to Karsh, whether it's, you know, actual material goods or just a message. And she is not available at this point. She was available earlier, and there was a missive that was taken to the apartments that Wes did not get. Though, if you listen to the live play, there's this piece in there where Runt's hanging out at the apartments and somebody answers the door. So it looks like a message was delivered, but it wasn't passed on. This gets Wes a little antsy. But the Chamberlain sees us, and he's, asks, "Hey, do you have some kind of relationship with the harbor at Kars?" And we don't really have a relationship. We've got some connections, but nothing significant. He goes, with that in mind, I don't see any need to send any bulk cargo. And as far as a missive, he couldn't think of anything pressing. Okay, so we head back to the harbor. The unloading turns out it's going to take most of the day, and then there's a refit and resupply, and it's going to take up the rest of the day. So we head back to the apartments, and there, Wes starts asking questions of the servants of the apartments there. There was a missive dropped off. I didn't get it. What's going on? What's happening? And the servant says he doesn't know anything about any of that. So Wes gets a check mark on his suspicious. And he casts suggestion on it. Tell me everything you know. Power versus power roll. Got a check mark. So it turns out that this guy does, in fact, not know anything. And there's another servant here today, and she doesn't know anything either. And Wes did do suggestion on her as well, because he's getting a little paranoid at this point. It turns out there's a third servant. Wes doesn't pay attention to the servants, right? That was here yesterday. We'll call him Bob. And but he's off today. So Wes writes a note to the Seneschal explaining what happened here with this whole missive and not getting through to me and who may be in actual possession of it and that kind of thing. And the Seneschal is the guy who actually runs the apartments. And so Wes wants an explanation of what's going on when he gets back. He does mention that he's concerned that this missing servant Bob may not actually ever be found. So it's something to be aware of. Okay, so we all get back to the harbor. And we explain to the harbor master that, once we return with the ship, it can continue its trips out west. So the merchants, they can continue with their money-making schemes. Get on board the ship. The computer still considers us to be strangers, there we go, and is a little reluctant to cooperate. Wes says we should call her Alia, which is Arabic for sky or heaven. And he's going to call her that from now on. We do manage to plot a course out of the harbor using the touch screen and plot points. Now, Hjalmar's Far Horizons character is a pilot. And now that he's awakened, he can start to do stuff. So he's trying to figure out the systems. He rolls a 96 automatic failure, and then a 99, which for his skill level is actually right at the fumble level. So he's pulling his hair out. He can't figure any of this stuff out. But once we get out into the ocean, we rise up to 100 meters, and then we head north to get up, past backwater, and it's running 100 meters above zero. And so as we start heading towards the coastline, it says, danger, obstacle ahead. Danger, obstacle ahead. Okay, let's run 1,000 meters AGL. That's above ground level. So it's tracking the actual level of the ground to keep us from running into stuff, mountains, etc. Okay, next day, we start heading east, and Hjalmar actually, at this point, is able to figure out the systems. He can now pilot the ship. 6 days, we get to the villa. As we arrive at the villa, the plot of Lynn's Vines is producing 5 times regular production. The villa is doing very well underneath the care of the Church of Lorath. It's producing revenue. So other improvements have also been proceeding as well. So the well's done, the vineyards are all 5 done, or 4 times. There's 4 vineyards, 1 height each kind of thing. The barn's finished, storehouse finished, irrigation's been done. The manor house is complete. The tent housing is all complete. The shrine is still under construction, but it's underway. So we go and visit the dwarf. And he notices Hjalmar's belt, and he grabs his hammer, and his knuckles turn white with his grace. Where did you get that belt? And he said, well, I purchased it from a dwarf far to the south of Hamlet. And the dwarf points at it and says, I thought that family died off in the end of the last war. Whoa, Rim says, oh, well, do tell us. So it turns out that there is a dwarven family, a clan, that fought on the side of Forge. Forg, rather. And so it's like, okay, does the dwarf want this belt? He takes the belt, and he steps outside, and he throws it into a fire, and is stoking it up, and there are sparks and smoke and all kinds of stuff. And Hjalmar kind of says, why is it doing that? He says, don't you know a cursed item when you see one? Poor Hjalmar. All the cursed items go to Hjalmar. Okay, so Raymond says, hey, perhaps you should tell us more about these clan symbols and those who went to the darkness. He says, that right there. You see that? You killed them. No questions asked. He says, most disconcerting that they did not meet their demise. He says, I suggest you mount an expedition and go and destroy them, and any elves you come across along the way. Okay, so getting back to our main point. Why are we here? What are we doing? We want to help, since the vineyard's doing fine, the villa is doing fine. What can we do to help improve the smithy, a notch? And so Raymond's asking him, hey, here's 200 silver. What would you do with this to make improvements? And he starts naming off things, different emplacements, different improvements, various other needs he has. And Hjalmar goes, all these things seem to be related to maintaining temperature. It's required for tempering and to remove impurities, and provide carbon bonding, that kind of thing, right? And, the ship's workshop has things that can do that. Centuries ahead of where we are here, right? So there's a little discussion, Raymond and Wes and Hjalmar. Okay, there are things that we can do to help. What things are there that we can do to help improve the facilities here? It says, Wes is vehement about not letting the dwarf on the ship and seeing the workshop. But he has no problem with us using the workshop to, do something like maybe take a solar panel and attach it to an electric fan so he's got a constant airflow on the coals kind of thing, that kind of deal. We could do that easily. So we go and check out Herman's shop because that's where some of the technology things have been. And now that we're all enlightened, we'll be able to spot these things right off the bat. But his shop is closed. In fact, it is boarded up. So Wes heads off to the Mages Guild, and Runt goes with him because last time we were here, people were getting killed. And so Raymond and Hjalmar then head off to the church. So at the Mages Guild, Thurman's not here at the moment. Okay, so Wes leaves a note for Thurman that, hey, I'm back in town. I found the Golden Lion. Because Wes is thinking, maybe we just take the boat and we go and track down where Herman was going, which is supposed to be a circle of Stolth, and see what we can't find there for ourselves. Because previously we were going to do a mountain expedition to try and find Herman. But that was 2 years ago as we started to actually look at the calendar. Okay, so Raymond and Hjalmar at the church. They meet with the high priestess. Hey, we're back in town. How can we be of service? He shares some news from Telgar specifically about the undead army. And the high priestess reminds him, remember the temple can be of service in dealing with such creatures. Raymond asks about a letter he had sent when he was made abbot. And on it, there was a discussion about what the bishop in Telgar told him about hunting out heresy, specifically the Lorathian heresy in the church. And so Raymond's, asking her about, any guidance she may have. And she says, he is right. All heretical teachings ought to be read out. Because she's talking about the Sylvanus heresy. Oh. So in the middle of the night, Runt and Raymond sneak out to break into Herman's. Now it's like early morning, so there's some activity. Bakers set out, And they've got a light, because if you're out in the dark at night in town, you're obviously up to bad business. Um, but as they're going out towards Herman's place, they encounter a guard that recognizes Raymond. And so he and the guard are talking while Raymond Runt rather, is hiding and trying to break into the building. He is being stealthy, except he wasn't able to get the lock open. So the guard, hey, did you hear that? And so they kind of investigate. Runt's able to hide out. They don't find anything, but the guard kind of mentioned, there was an expedition to go rescue him, but nothing ever came about that. And so the creditors came back and they cleared this place out to pay off his debts. Runt still wants to get in, though, and he recommends that we make a fake debt so we can show up as late creditors. See if we can't get our hands on some of the stuff. Next day, Raymond and Runt return to the villa, where Raymond employs his forgery skills. Oh, fun times. Good stuff. We still don't know really what we're doing or where we're going or what's next, but that's where we are. Happy gaming.